Summary. The two people I loved most were not who I imagined to be. I was in a 2-year relationship with my girlfriend, but everything fell apart when she started to change. At first, I made sacrifices, like living with her cat, even though I was allergic, but things started to get worse when she began going out with coworkers, disappearing, and complaining that I didn't spend money on her, even though I was paying all the bills. My girlfriend has a crush at work. Redditors, I need advice. I'm 21 years old, my girlfriend is 20, we've been together for 2 years, and recently we moved in together. We made a huge effort to make everything work, even bringing her cat, despite me being allergic. At first, everything was perfect. But then, she started a new job, and things changed. In the first week of work, she went to a happy hour with the interns, drank, disappeared from her phone, and came home as if nothing had happened. After that, she started saying that I don't spend money on her, that we don't go out for dinner, even though I had already explained that I was financially tight. I even paid for her driver's license and took on all the household bills to help her. Over the weekend, we fought. She said she was feeling pressured, that she liked living with me but sometimes didn't feel comfortable. She also said that I wasn't being as gentle with her, that she didn't feel loved, and that she was feeling needy. This made me disgusted, because it's exactly the opposite. I'm affectionate with her, but when I show affection, she calls me clingy. If I give her space, she complains that she doesn't feel my love. On Monday, she went out to lunch with a guy from work. Later, I found out that he paid for her meal and that she had said she was going to take advantage of that. That night, while she was sleeping, I went through her tablet and found conversations with a friend. She referred to this guy as a crush, saying she felt attracted to him, that he was more handsome than me, and that she felt fulfilled. She said she had already imagined having kids with him and even a cute nickname for the two of them. What hurts me the most is that, on the same day, I had opened up to her, told her how happy I was being with her, and how special our relationship was. And while I was saying that, she was already getting interested in someone else. I don't know if she cheated on me, but I'm also not willing to take the risk. The thing is, what should I do now? The house is mine. I'm thinking about simply telling her not to come back and sending her things to her parents' house. What would you do in my place? Update 1. After I had opened up about everything, I kept trying to talk to her, asking her to stop seeing that guy and to pay more attention to our relationship. But she didn't want to listen. Every time I brought it up, she got defensive, saying I was being possessive, that I should trust her, that she was just having fun with her coworkers. But I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was wrong. She kept going out with her coworkers, going to happy hours, lunches, and events. Every time she came back, there was something in the air. She seemed more distant, colder, as if she was somewhere else, mentally, while I was trying to hold our relationship together. One day, after one of these outings, she came home later than usual. I was anxious to talk to her, to try to figure out what was going on, but she dodged me again. She said she was tired, that she had a lot of things to do at work, and went straight to the bedroom without even giving me a decent explanation. Every day, my frustration grew. I felt like the more I tried to fix things, the more she pulled away. And the worst part was that she didn't seem willing to change anything. I even suggested we go to couples therapy to try and improve our communication, but she said that wasn't necessary, that I was overreacting. I was becoming more and more anxious. I couldn't continue in a relationship where I didn't feel respected or loved. But at the same time, I couldn't just turn my back on everything we had lived through. I still loved her, and the thought of breaking up destroyed me, but on the other hand, I knew the situation wasn't going to get better. One night, she went out with her coworkers again, and that was the breaking point. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to look through her tablet again. When I saw the messages, everything was confirmed. She was more involved with that guy from work than I wanted to believe. It wasn't just friendship. She was really letting herself get carried away by him, emotionally and maybe even physically. I knew I couldn't ignore what was right in front of me anymore. With a heavy heart, I decided it was time to put an end to it. The next morning, I waited for her to wake up, and, as calmly as I could, I told her it was over. I said I couldn't continue in a relationship where there was no trust, where she was giving more attention to someone else than to me. She tried to convince me to stay, saying it was all a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting. But I knew what I had seen, I knew what was happening. Finally, I made the decision to ask her to leave, to go back to her parents' house. I couldn't keep living in a relationship where love and respect no longer existed. She left for work that day, and I knew I was doing the right thing. I locked the front door, grabbed the spare key, and kept it for myself. When she got home that evening, she was exhausted as usual and had no idea what was about to happen. She approached the door, tried to open it, but it was locked. She knocked a few times, not knowing what was going on. She called my name, but I stayed silent. Finally, she started begging, asking to talk, for me to open the door. I just stood there, listening to everything. The pain was mixed with a sense of relief. It was over. I didn't want empty words anymore, promises that would never be kept. I just wanted her to leave. She kept knocking on the door, but I didn't open it. I knew that was the only way to end it all. When she finally left, I locked that chapter of my life forever. Now, all I wanted was to rebuild my life, with a broken heart, but with the hope that one day I would find someone who loved me the way I loved her. Date 2. A few weeks had passed since she left the house. The pain started to fade, and gradually, a sense of freedom began to take over me. I was beginning to rebuild myself, focusing on my life and my well-being. The loneliness still weighed on me, but it was preferable to being in a toxic relationship where love seemed to have disappeared. Then, one evening, the phone rang. It was her. I knew I didn't want to hear what she had to say, but for some reason, I answered, my heart pounding in my chest. "I need to talk to you." "It's important," she said, her voice shaky. The tension that gripped me was immediate. Something wasn't right. I asked her to come over to the house, but this time, with no intention of trying to fix things. I was exhausted. When she arrived, she looked visibly nervous, and her eyes seemed distant. Something in the air felt different. "I'm pregnant," she said after a long silence, her eyes filled with tears. "And the baby is yours." The words echoed in my head. The shock was so intense that I could barely process it. She seemed so sincere, but at the same time, a part of me questioned it. Could it be true? All these months, she had wrapped me in lies and insecurities. How could I believe everything she was saying now? She continued, saying that she had taken the test, that she was going to the doctor, and that despite everything, she wanted the baby to grow up with a father present. She said she was afraid of losing me, that she was sorry, and that she wanted to build something with the child. But inside, I felt a growing anger. How could she want that now, after everything that had happened? How could I trust her again? "Are you sure it's mine?" I asked, the pain mingling with doubt. I knew she had been involved with that guy from work, who seemed so much closer to her, but she insisted the baby was mine, that I was the only one who had been the father. I remained silent for a while, trying to process what she was saying. Confusion took over me. It wasn't just the fear of becoming a father, but the doubt about what she really wanted. I still loved that woman, but what she had done to me had left me deeply hurt. "I don't know what to do," I finally said, the words coming out heavy. "You lied to me so much, used me, and now this?" She knelt in front of me, tears streaming down her face, begging me to take her back, to let us build a future together for the baby. She said she wasn't the same person anymore, that she wanted to change, that she understood how much she hurt me, and that she was willing to try to be the woman I needed. But inside, the battle was immense. I didn't know if I could trust her again. The pain of being betrayed, of feeling rejected by her, was still fresh. At the same time, I saw myself faced with the reality that, if the baby was really mine, I would have to make an important decision. With my heart torn, I told her I needed time to think. I didn't know if I was ready to give the relationship another chance, or if I even wanted to rebuild it. What I knew was that, before anything, I needed answers. Time would tell me what to do. She left, leaving me alone with the uncertainty, with the fear of the future. What would I do? Could I forgive her? Could I be a father to a child that, in some way, was conceived amid all that emotional confusion? I knew that in the end, I would have to make a decision. But for now, the questions were louder than the answers. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Update 3. Time passed, and even with all the doubts and anguish, something inside me told me that I still loved that woman. I couldn't get her out of my head, nor what we had lived, nor the good moments we shared before all the confusion. The fact that she was pregnant with my child also weighed heavily. I knew that being a father was an immense responsibility, but the idea of abandoning the child haunted me. I didn't know if I could forgive her, but at the same time, the love I felt for her was still strong. After much reflection, we made a decision. She asked to come back, promised to change, and I knew I needed to do my part too. We decided to try again, with the condition that it would be a new beginning, a new chance for both of us. We went to couples therapy, and little by little, we began rebuilding the trust that had seemed to be lost. We moved back in together, and although the weight of what had happened was still present, we began to focus on the future. She dedicated herself to prenatal care, and I got more involved, trying to be the partner she needed. I didn't want to fail as a father, and I was willing to give my best to ensure our child would have a loving home. The months passed, and she became more and more pregnant. Sometimes, I found myself wondering what would have happened if we hadn't tried to start over, but then I would look at her, and the desire to build a family for our child was stronger. I knew things between us wouldn't be perfect, but fatherhood made me realize that some things are more important than the mistakes of the past. When the day of the birth arrived, the tension was in the air. She was scared, and I was too. The hospital was full of nervousness, but at the same time, there was a sense of hope in the atmosphere. After hours of waiting, she finally gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. The moment I saw his face for the first time, with his eyes closed and soft skin, was indescribable. All the pain, all the frustration, and the mistakes of the past seemed to disappear for a moment. What was before me was the opportunity to start over, to be the best father he could have. The first time I held our son in my arms, everything changed. That tiny being, so fragile and dependent on us, was the reason we were there, trying to be a family again. It didn't matter what we had gone through. In that moment, only the present existed, the future we were building for him. The first days at home were a mix of exhaustion and happiness. Sleep was little, concerns were many, but the love for our son was there, visible and tangible. She and I, still with our imperfections, were learning how to be parents. It wasn't easy, and arguments still happened from time to time, but what united us now was stronger than any differences. As time went on and our son began to grow, we started to see changes in ourselves. I learned to forgive, to accept her mistakes and my own. And she, in turn, showed she was willing to fight for our family, to be the woman I had always hoped she would be. Maybe trust wasn't the same as before, but the responsibility for our new life together was a strong enough bond to keep us united. The relationship wasn't perfect, but, no matter how difficult it was, we knew we now had a greater reason. Our son was our priority, and for him, we were willing to move forward. The path ahead was still uncertain, but I knew that with each step we took, we were creating something new, something that, with time, could overcome the mistakes of the past and become something beautiful. Update 4. The first few months with our son passed quickly. As he grew, we started to adapt to the new routine. There was a new dynamic between us. I was doing my best to be a good father and a good partner. But at the same time, there was a weight I couldn't shake off. A feeling that something still wasn't right. One evening, after putting our son to bed, I was in the living room organizing some things when her phone vibrated on the table. It was a message. I don't know why, but a strange feeling took over me. Something told me to look. I hesitated for a moment, but curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed her phone and saw that the message was from the guy from work. His name appeared on the screen, Lucas. The message said, "Hey, beautiful. I was thinking about you. Can we meet later?" I froze. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She had promised me that this was in the past. She had committed to being transparent and faithful to me. My heart raced, and anger started to build up inside me. I stood there for a few seconds, the phone in my hands, not knowing what to do. I knew I couldn't just ignore what I was seeing, so I decided to wait. When she came into the room, I tried to stay calm. She noticed something was off in my expression, but she had no idea what I knew. "Hey, love, everything okay?" She tried to smile, but the tension in my face made her worry. "Are you still meeting with Lucas?" I said, my voice low, trying to control my anger. I couldn't hide how hurt I was. She turned pale, and her smile instantly disappeared. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Don't try to fool me, her name." "I saw the message from him on your phone. He's asking you to meet up again." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. You promised me this was over. She stood silent for a moment, clearly trying to find a response convincing enough. But instead, she looked down, ashamed. The guilt was written all over her face. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to deal with all this. She started to stutter, her words lacking conviction. I thought we could make it work. But I still feel something for him. But I love you too, and I don't know what to do. I felt a knot in my stomach. The pain and disappointment took over me in a way I couldn't describe. After everything we went through, she was still seeing the guy who I knew had betrayed me. And now, she wanted me to accept it? Do you realize that you're destroying me? I said, my voice breaking. We have a son now. I've tried to be the best father and partner I could be for you, and you're still betraying me. I don't know what to think anymore. She walked toward me, trying to touch me, but I took a step back, pulling away. Don't touch me. Not after everything. I was furious, but I was also deeply sad. I wanted to believe that our family could be fixed, but she had shown me, once again, that she was torn. I couldn't keep living like this. The trust had been broken again, and this time, I didn't know if I could get it back. I need some time. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't keep going like this. I looked into her eyes one last time and saw the pain in them. But the pain I felt was even greater. I can't live with someone who betrays me. I can't. She stood silent, her eyes brimming with tears, but she said nothing. She knew that words no longer mattered. What she had done spoke louder than any apology she could offer. I walked out of the room, and the night passed in heavy silence. I knew that the future of our family was more uncertain than ever, but I couldn't ignore reality. She had once again left me with the feeling that there was no space for trust between us. And I didn't know if I could continue in a relationship where loyalty didn't exist. Update 5. Time seemed to be working against me. The anger and pain I felt were unbearable, but I knew I needed answers. Her words echoed in my mind. I still feel something for him. I was devastated, not only by the betrayal but by wondering if the child she was carrying was truly mine. The thought that I could be deceived again consumed me. I needed to know the truth. I couldn't live with the doubt. I decided to take the DNA test. It didn't matter how difficult it was. I had to be sure. She tried to convince me it wasn't necessary, but I insisted. I didn't care about another argument. The truth needed to come out. She agreed, reluctantly, but with the same guilty expression on her face. The test was done, and after a few days of waiting, the day to get the results finally came. I was nervous, anxious, and, in a way, afraid of what I might find. When I opened the envelope, my hand trembled. The report was clear. The result was negative. I was not the father. I stood there for a moment, not knowing what to do with this information. The words, "You are not the father," didn't seem real. My world collapsed. The questions I had tried to avoid, the ones I didn't want to believe, were now right in front of me. Everything I thought was true was now in doubt. I had given everything for that child, for that family, and now I saw it had all been a lie. She came home shortly after, and when she saw me holding the test results, her face changed to panic. She already knew what was happening. "You took the test?" she asked, her voice tense. "Yes. And the result doesn't lie." I was angry, but there was also a deep sadness in my voice. "I'm not the father." She started crying, her eyes filled with regret. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I was waiting for the right moment. I didn't know what to do." "So you've been lying to me this whole time, haven't you?" The pain in my voice was obvious. "You made me believe I was the father. I did everything for you and for this child. And now I see it was all a lie." She collapsed into tears, trying to explain, but there were no words that could fix what had been broken. I looked at her, still in shock, but the anger was building. "I gave you a chance, and you betrayed me. Now you've betrayed me again." I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. Lucas, he's the father," she said, sobbing, almost unable to look me in the eye. "I was wrong, so wrong. I love you, but I don't know what happened to me." I couldn't listen anymore. My heart was too heavy to accept any excuses. I was destroyed. She had deceived me again, and now I knew that all the effort I put into our family had been in vain. I don't know if I can keep doing this. Not after everything, I said, my voice hoarse with so much pain. You betrayed me, you lied, and now I see that even our family wasn't real. You knew he was the father and still made me believe otherwise. She approached me, begging for forgiveness, but I was already beyond that. What we had was irreparable. The worst part wasn't just the lie itself, but the fact that I had invested so much into something that was never true. I can't do this anymore. I can't go on like this. I took a deep breath, trying to hold back tears. I'm no longer part of this lie. I walked out of the room, and she stayed there, crying, while I made the decision that it would be better to go my own way without her. The future I imagined, the family I dreamed of, no longer existed. After all the revelations, I knew there was no turning back. The trust we once had disintegrated, and all that remained were the lies and betrayals she had imposed on me. There was no more room for conversations, apologies, or attempts to fix something that was irreparably broken. The next morning, still in shock, I decided that the best thing was to put an end to everything once and for all. I couldn't continue living in this lie. She needed to know that, for me, the relationship was over. I walked into the room where she was sitting quietly, her eyes swollen from crying. I looked at her, feeling nothing but emptiness. You're leaving now, I said firmly, without raising my voice. She looked at me, confused, trying to understand what I was saying. What do you mean? No, please don't do this. I love you. I can change. We can try again. I cut her off, no patience left. No. It's not possible. I gave you every chance, and you destroyed everything. You betrayed me, lied to me, and now I know this child isn't mine. There's no more space for this between us. You need to go. She started crying harder, trying to come closer to me, but I stepped back. I didn't feel any compassion anymore. Everything she had done, everything she had put me through, made me realize that, for my own good, I needed to cut everything off once and for all. I won't see you anymore. I won't talk to you anymore. I took her phone and blocked all her contacts. I blocked her on every social media platform, every way for her to reach me. No matter what happens, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. She seemed out of control, still trying to convince me, crying, that everything would be different, that she would do everything possible to fix her mistakes. But I knew there was nothing she could do to change what had happened. You're going back to your home now, and I don't want to hear from you again, I said, with a coldness I didn't know I had inside me. She tried calling Lucas, but he didn't answer. I knew she would reach out to him, but, to my surprise, he ignored her. He didn't take her back. He left her on read, just like I was doing. Alone, tears in her eyes, she gathered her things and left the house. I watched her go, without saying another word, and the door closed behind her. The feeling of relief and liberation was immense, but there was also a deep sadness for everything that had been lost. Our story, which once seemed like everything, was now just a closed chapter. She had nowhere else to go. With no other options, she was forced to return to her parents' house. I found out when I saw her message, which went unanswered by me, where she said she was back at their house, completely embarrassed. She knew that everyone was now looking at her differently. The shame was evident. There was no more respect, and she had lost far more than just a relationship. I moved on with my life, without her and without the child. It wasn't my child, it never would be. The pain of being deceived mixed with the relief of finally being free from that tie. Life would never be the same, but I knew that from that moment on, I had to focus on myself, on my own recovery. She and the child who wasn't mine were a closed chapter in my life. Time passed, and she tried to reach out a few times, but I never gave in. It was clear that she now had to deal with the consequences of her choices. I moved forward, without her, without the child who was never mine, and with the certainty that, no matter how hard it had been, I was on the right path. It was no longer about loving someone who had destroyed me. It was about taking care of who truly mattered, me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.